a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. And from our studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, Mr. David Williams. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, 24th day of November 2015. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. Now, these are cash markets. The Dow is up 15 points. S&P is down 1.5. NASDAQ is down 13, and the Russell is down 1.5. Crude oil up $1.32. Gold up $8.60. Asian markets, the Nikkei up 45. Shanghai up 5.5. Hang Seng down 78. And in European markets, boy, nothing good there. The DAX down 158. The FTSE, now that 158 points, that's 1.5%, just to give you an idea. FTSE down 28 points, and the CAC 40 down 68 points, which is also just shy of 1.5%. So, as we head into the holiday season, more flat to sideways. As you could see, the S&P sold off nicely overnight on the London Open, through our Concierge Trade Alert at 2075. We put in a swing low down at 65.50, so almost a 10-point move. And then, of course, important prices, important areas almost always tested, and we see that being tested right there. Now, in other news, we often think of the short sellers as going after the small companies, the startups, the bird with the broken wing. Goldman Sachs just released its new quarterly hedge fund trend monitor report detailing the positions of the top hedge funds. Within the report, Goldman presented its very important short position list. It's the collection of the S&P 500 stocks with the highest dollar value of short interest outstanding at the end of the third quarter. This list includes multiple companies in the oil, retail, and technology industries. Now, these are stocks that are being shorted by the quote-unquote smart money. And a lot of these are household names. Cisco, Halliburton, Walmart, Verizon, Chevron. Is there even one you don't know yet? Ace Limited, that's property and casualty insurance. Target, Monsanto, Avago Technologies, that's semiconductor business. You might not know that one. Johnson & Johnson, it's in everyone's medicine cabinet. Boeing, Caterpillar, IBM, Schlumberger, oil and gas, Intel, AT&T, Express Scripts Holdings, healthcare, Exxon, and number one, Disney. Short interest percentage of float, 4%. When these household names have that much short interest in them, that could have a heavy overall effect on the markets at large. So just be careful out there. All right, what we're going to do today is what we do every day. Michael's going to come in. He's going to give us a recap of everything that happened today in the live trading room. The good, the bad, the stuff we never sweep under the carpet. After that, I'll be back with our good word for the day. We'll go over some of the Concierge Trade Alerts from last night. And at the top of the hour, we'll talk to David from pagetrader.com and get his forecast from the edge and, of course, your questions, all on today's show. And Michael, if you're ready, you can take it away.
Okay, I am ready. I am ready. That and this and that. All right. So you should be, there you go, looking at my homepage, our homepage. There we go.
Got it.
All right.
Locked and loaded. I'm going to hit mute.
Okay, and I'll hit record in just a second here. There we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, the 24th day of November, 2015. If you have not taken a free trial with us, just go to CFRN.net, the homepage here at CFRN.net. In the right-hand side, where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link, all right? Once you click that confirmation link, then we know you took the free trial. And then we can send you all the information you need to get into our live trading room for 5 luxurious trading days. All right, the spreadsheet. To get to our spreadsheet, go here to view live trading room results, click on that, and go here where it says click here, and click there. And then scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see our current day. Okay? Today, we were up 9 ticks on the Russell, 26 ticks on crude, 4 ticks on gold. We're -8 on the ES and +6 on the NQ. Okay, -8 on the ES, +6 on the NQ. So it took us 10 minutes and 5 trades to get to our goal for the day. And when we closed out that trade, we were up $105 a contract. We took a total of 19 trades today. All right, so on the month, we are now up $2,840. That's over 17 trading days, averaging $167 a day.
2 o'clock.
Now, let's see. Here, with an $8 commission, we're up $328. With a $5 commission, $1,270. Now, this number right here, guys, is what you would be up if you stopped trading when you got your 2 points. That's the gross number. This is the net number. If you had stopped trading when you got your 2 points with an $8 commission, $811. With a $5 commission, $1,162. Just worth knowing. On the year now, we are up $58,167. And that's over 221 trading days, averaging $263 per day. Okay. And that's that. Now, let's get into the trades. We took 19 trades today. On gold, we took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We took 5 trades here on gold, looks like. The first trade was a break even. The second trade was 1 tick profit. The third trade was 8 ticks profit, putting us at +9. Fourth trade we stopped out on, we missed that one. And the fifth trade, we got 3 ticks profit, putting us at +4. Okay. During the break, just the one trade right here that just happened was right in here. Okay. Went for about 4 or 5 ticks. All right. On the Russell. Let's see. On the Russell. We actually only had the one trade that we took today. There was a trade here that we missed on the Russell, but we took this one trade right here for 9 ticks profit. It looks like we missed a trade right in here too. It was a short trade right in there going down to the zone, but we missed it. During the break, there was some pretty good movement here. And went pretty much zone to zone here during the break. Long trade was right here, going right up into the zone, and that was the only trade we could have taken. Well, actually, you could have taken a short trade right in here too. Okay, and that was it on the Russell. We were +9 on the Russell. Okay, crude oil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is what I have. 6 trades on the crude. The first trade was right in here. We took 9 ticks profit on our first trade on crude. On our second trade, we took 6 ticks profit, putting us at +15. Then we had a break-even trade there. We missed that trade right there. Then moved down. Missed that one, missed that one. And we finally got this one for 4 ticks, putting us at +19. And this one over here for 7 ticks, putting us at +26. We had a break-even trade right there. Now, we missed a trade here, and during the break, let's see, there's a long trade there, didn't put in a higher swing, so we wouldn't have taken another trade on the long side until, well, it doesn't look like we would have taken another trade on the long side. So we had just one trade during the break on the crude oil. All right, we were +26 on crude today. On the NQ, we didn't trade too much on the NQ. We missed some huge trades right in here, but I'll get to that in a second. There we go. One of our first trades here was on the NQ. Actually, our first trade was on the NQ. We took 3 ticks profit on that one. We missed that one. Looks like we missed a couple more in here. And in here. Missed a short there, short there. Looks like we missed a couple of shorts in here too. Right in there, in there, in there. We took this one, putting us at +4. Look at all this. Once we broke down here, we could have shorted there, 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 there. And then we could have gone long right there. Short there, long there. We missed all that. But right here, we finally did get long in here. And I said this is where it was going to go. I drew this leg length there, and I said this is where it's going to go. And it did eventually get up there. Took it a while, though. I consolidated here for a half an hour. But we got 2 ticks profit here, putting us at +6 on the NQ. And this was the leg length. So I would have anticipated another leg length of that size, and you see how that leg length just kept coming into play. I'll go over that in the meeting this afternoon that I have at 1:15. Okay, but you can see there were a few more shorting opportunities here recently. Happy Tuesday, John. Prit, is Michael having a separate meeting? This is I'm talking right now, Prit, but at 1:15 I'm going to have a separate meeting. Okay, I'll give you a link to that in just a minute here. All right, on the ES, we had a few trades here on the ES. Hang on, let the data load. And there. Okay, we started out with a break-even trade here, a missed trade there, another break-even trade there. Stop out there, so we're -8 ticks after that stop out, and another break-even trade right here. You can see the indexes, they ran pretty well here during the break, and this is what I was talking about doing in the message that I sent to you earlier in the other room. You know, between 11:30 and 12, the markets usually start to open up. All right, and that is all the markets. We were -8 on the ES. Okay. Now the spreadsheet. Go through it again. We were +9 on the Russell, +26 on Crude, +4 on gold, -8 on the ES, +6 on the NQ. Took us 10 minutes and 5 trades to get to our goal for the day, and we're at $105 a contract when we did that. And we took 19 trades today. So we were up 260, 350, 390, -70, $320 a contract. Okay. On the month, we're up $2,840. That's over 17 trading days, averaging $167 per contract per day. All right. Yearly, now we are up $58,167. That's over 221 trading days, averaging $263 per day. Now, if you have not taken our free trial, just go here to our homepage at CFRN.net, and in the right-hand column, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you will be sent a confirmation link. Okay, click on that confirmation link, and then you get all the information you need for 5 days in our luxurious live trading room. That's it. With that, guys, I'm going to wrap up the recording, and we can head back out to Phoenix, if Phoenix is ready.
Yes, sir.
Phoenix?
Yep, we're ready.
Okay.
All right.
Alright. The link for the webinar that is this afternoon is right here. Alright, I'm going to be doing a webinar in about an hour. I'll be doing a webinar. Alright, let me give you the link. It's at 1:15 Eastern Time. Okay. Hold on just a second. Let me find it. Here it is. It is at 1:15 Eastern Time. Alright, the trial members link. And there it is. Alright. So, if anybody has any questions about anything, you can call me at 949-423-6464. That's 949-423-6464. Okay. And that's it. Alright. There. Alright, Phoenix, I can see your charts.
Alrighty. Very good. Thanks, Michael.
All right, not a problem.
Okay, guys, we're going to go straight to the good word for the day. Be willing to let God mold you, change you, shape you, fashion you as he will. Jeremiah 18:6. O house of Israel, can I not do with you as this potter, says the Lord? Look, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. And the clay in the potter's hand, it can become a lampstand, candlestick, or a candle stand, or a trash can. But the key is to surrender and let God mold you in the way that He created you. Henry Poppin was one of China's first missionaries. He spent 40 years telling its people about the love of Jesus and how He died to take away their sin. One day after he had finished speaking, a man approached him and said, "We know this Jesus. He's been here." Dr. Poppin explained that wasn't possible because Jesus had lived and died long ago in a country far from China. "Oh no," the man insisted. "He died here. I can even show you his grave." He led Dr. Poppin outside the city to a cemetery where an American was buried. There, inscribed on a crumbling gravestone, was the name of a medical doctor who felt called by God to live and die among the people of this remote Chinese village. And when its people heard Dr. Poppin describe the attributes of Jesus, His mercy, His love, His kindness, His willingness to forgive, they remembered the missionary doctor. God will use you when you're willing to become clay in the potter's hand. Clay has no aspirations. It's moldable, pliable, and completely subject to the potter's will. Henry Blackaby says, when God's assignment demands humility, He finds a servant willing to be humbled. When it requires zeal, He looks for someone He can fill with His Spirit. God uses holy vessels, so He finds those who will allow Him to remove their impurities. It's not a noble task being clay. There's no glamour to it, nothing boast-worthy, except it's exactly what God is looking for. So today I encourage you to be willing to let God mold you. And now, turning back to the news for just a moment, Donald Trump, is he going to be the next president? I need to open the chat box here. There we go, I got it open. Is there anyone in the audience who thinks he can be or will be president? Fox News host Bill O'Reilly confronted real estate mogul Donald Trump on Monday for a controversial tweet that he shared last weekend. Trump retweeted an image purporting to give crime statistics by race. But as Riley noted, the numbers were wildly inaccurate. The source was the Crime Statistics Bureau, an entity that doesn't even exist, according to PolitiFact. This bothered me, I gotta tell you, O'Reilly told Trump. He tweeted out that whites are killed by blacks at a rate of 81%, and that's totally wrong. The percentage of whites killed by blacks is 15%. Trump quickly distanced himself from the Sunday tweet, which he has yet to delete from his account. "Bill, I didn't tweet, I retweeted something that was supposedly an expert. Am I going to check every statistic? I get millions and millions of people." Typical Trump. The two proceeded to talk over one another. Well, that happens a lot on the O'Reilly Show. You're a presidential contender. You've got to check, O'Reilly told Trump of his tweets. "You know what? Fine," Trump replied. "But this came out of radio shows and everything else. All this was a retweet." "Oh, come on. Radio shows?" Riley asked. "Excuse me," Trump interjected. "All it was is a retweet. It wasn't from me, and it came out of a radio show and other places. O'Reilly ended the back and forth by lecturing Trump on what he should do to avoid giving ammunition to his rivals. Trump had multiple other retweets that generated controversy, including one that featured Nazi imagery. "You know, I'm looking for you, right? You know that," he asked. "I look out for every honest politician. I don't care what party they're in. Don't do this. Don't put your name on stuff like this. Because it makes the other side, it gives them stuff to tell the ill-informed voter that you're a racist. I mean, you just handed them a platter." And you know Trump, once he gets his teeth sunk into something, he doesn't let go. This was a retweet. And it came from sources that are very credible. "You shouldn't be tweeting," O'Reilly told him. "Don't tweet. Give it up for Lent." Earlier in their conversation, Trump also said, "I'm probably the least racist person on earth." Now, Bart, you say he went to a rally in Worcester. You went to
Worcester.
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 Oh, Worcester.
Worcester.
Okay.
Worcester.
So how was it, Bart? Were you impressed? You saw him in person? 12,000 turned out? Let's see. Rich shares, yes, however, Trump needs to be more careful with his messaging. That's probably the reason why his campaign manager quit. Now that's a piece that I missed. Who is this campaign manager, and why did they quit? Yes, however, okay, that's still from Rich. All right. Well, let's go to the charts and let's take a look at some of the Concierge Trade Alerts from last night. All right. Let's go to the ES. Consider being short below 2075. We had a swing low here at 2065.5. So that's a 9.5 point drop. And of course, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So on this second move down, we get to a low of 67.25, and then here we go again, and this time swing low 2067. So 9.5 points. Call it 8. Guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
We lost the audio connection. It says your audio connection has been reestablished. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
It seemed like your audio went out a minute ago too. It's just silence for a second there. But we can hear you now.
I think that was me texting David.
Oh, okay.
That time.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So, all right. Let's look at the bonds. 155.13. There we go. All right, so from 155.13, we put in a swing high at 155.24. So that's 11 ticks. On the short side, we were looking at 150. $155. It's on the short side. Alert. 155. All right, let's look at crude oil. Okay. On crude, long above 42.30, which is right here. Now, this first move up, we got 42.38, which if you're trading the 2420 blueprint, that's far enough to get your stop to break even, potentially lock some in. On the second move up, we got all the way up to 42.50. That's 20 ticks. Now with crude oil, you need 10 ticks to be done for the day. And on this last little move up, we got to 36. Again, that's enough to get your stop to break even. And then the big move took us all the way up to 43.46. Now from 42.30 to 43.30, that's $1,000 per contract move. Right there, 43.30. A $1 move in crude oil from 42.30 to 43.30. If you can catch that, and of course, these are 30-minute candles, so there's going to be pullbacks along the way, so it depends upon how tightly you trail your stop that you'll be able to capture that, how much of that you'll be able to capture. We had two rallies on the way up to that $1,000 mark. Okay, next, take a look at the euro. Consider being long above 106.45. Okay, so we struggled just a little bit getting underway, but then away it went. $106.45, swing high was 106.74. So some 45, 55, 65, 75. So that's 29 ticks. And the euro pays $12.50 per tick. And then, of course, important prices in important areas, almost always tested. There we go again. And again. And yet again. So some real nice moves on the upside. You only need 8 at $12.50 per tick. It only takes 8. Now, Dave is going to join us a little bit early today. Let me check and see if he's popped in as of yet. Yep, he's here. He just hasn't connected his audio yet. Yep, looks like he's logging in. All right, so we're going to pause for a brief station identification, and when we come back, we'll talk with David from pagetrader.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310.
Well, I'll just say good morning, Dwayne.
Don't need you now, on your way. I thank the Lord for love like ours that grows ever stronger.
How's that? Is that a little bit better?
That's a little bit better, but I could live with the other ones. Well, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good. Glad to have you with us a little bit early today. Give us a chance to talk about any and everything that you want to talk about.
Well, sure.
And, of course, we'll take a look at the markets. So what's happening in your world?
Well, I'm, of course, strangely, as you get older, you tend to get a little more, strangely, excited about something like Thanksgiving. I don't know why it is, but just the fact that you're going to be together with your family, things like family become more important. If you have children, they're going to be there, and all of that, and I'm looking forward to that. So I can remember when I was younger being completely annoyed in every possible way by having to do Thanksgiving. Having to go in there and everyone, you're sitting at the table and everyone is constantly asking everyone else if they want something. Like, can I pass this to you? Can you have that? Can you have, and all you're doing is just passing plates all the time. It's not like you're having a good meal. Everyone is asking everyone else if they want something that they can reach over you to hand to them. Anyway, but now, of course, because I'm an adult now, my daughter is 33 years old now, so it's really going to be a smaller gathering. I am looking forward to it. I think it's a very nice break to have that, and I'm looking forward to it. So
the thing that amazed me is so much work and energy goes into it, so much time. Days in some households, but certainly many, many hours. And then from the time you sit down until you're finished, I don't know, 20 minutes?
Maybe. You can fill up pretty quick on a Thanksgiving meal. And I don't know if people know this, but Thanksgiving is actually one of those times where there's a pickup in hospitals from people who have eaten too much and have symptoms of, or unfortunately actually have some kind of heart event that happens. I don't know if you knew that, but Thanksgiving is
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the hospitals, people just gorge themselves, and you just have to be careful, moderate your eating. It's tempting because there's so much food there to pack it all in. But digestion is the most intense process that your body does on its own. You could run the quarter mile, and that's an intense process. But when you're just eating and digesting food is a really big process for your body, and you can certainly overdo that, and your body is very forgiving, but for people who might be kind of close to the edge with other issues, it's, overeating can really push you over the edge. And you'd be wise to mention to people, give smaller portions and let people have to go back to get more or whatever, just because it can harm people. What a wrecked evening it would be if somebody has some kind of medical event because they packed it in too much. And so that's my suggestion, is don't eat too much. Have a nice time, but don't eat too much.
Yeah, I never feel the urge, because it's like, okay, I have a normal eating habit most days, but because today's a holiday, I'm going to, gorge myself.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't have that gene or chromosome or whatever it might be. You know what I'm saying? Some people
absolutely.
it's because it's Thanksgiving, I have to overeat, I have to stuff myself, I have to cause myself some bodily harm, and gosh, don't do it. I mean, eat slow, enjoy it, savor it, enjoy the conversation, keep passing the stuff. And
keep passing this up. Could you pass that? Would you like some of this? Could I give you some of this? David, would you like some more green beans? Could you all just let me eat? Thank you. It's just I've been at Thanksgivings with my family where literally for the first 10 minutes that you're at the table supposedly eating, you're just passing things back and forth to people throughout that 10 minutes. I know it's a childish thing to complain, but I never claimed to be an adult. Have I made that claim? I don't know.
Not on this radio program. No.
Okay. There you are. And, outside of that, we have a topsy-turvy world. It's nice that families get back together. If I could, the family unit's really an important thing. Certainly everybody, I think, would agree that the family unit is a vastly important social structure in life. If I was going to rename the Black Lives Matter group, I would say it's Black Wives Matter, meaning, you should be with your wife, you should have a family, you should maintain that structure if it's possible to do so. During Thanksgiving, we all get together. You get to see relatives if that's what happens, or you're just with your family. But it's a centering point, and we live in really a crazy world right now. Crazy because there are crazy people who want to take over the world. There's no question that exists. They somehow can't find enjoyment in experiencing what the world has to offer them, the opportunities that they could have. They want to be a part of something that's very different, and they want to take over the world and so on. We also have, unfortunately, an administration here in the United States that is hopelessly in denial about what is actually happening. I mean, it's actually, to say the cat is out of the bag would be, a classic understatement for where this administration is. They're hopelessly in denial about the seriousness and the fact that we're really at war. We're at a cultural war where, as Marco Rubio has said, either they win or we win. The president the other day made a very, I thought, a very clarifying statement about his view of ISIS. He said they're just killers that know how to use social media really well. And that was such a that brought such clarity to how he discounts things, how he views things. He doesn't really see and know the dangers. He just says, it's almost like another JV team comment to say that they're just killers that know how to use social media. No, actually, Mr. President, it's much bigger than that. I mean, that's a really cruel understatement as to what, and blind understatement as to what is going on. I've never seen anything like what we have in our current administration with regards to their inability and their unwillingness and their straight-out denial as to what is clear to everyone else. I've said this 2-3 years ago. This is the emperor has no clothes administration. Everyone can see it but them. It's almost as if the clarity is in the population, not in the leadership. I mean, this is not an administration that leads from behind. That's a very common statement. They don't even follow from behind, let alone lead from behind. They're on a completely different course. If you stood up and said, listen, to the president, I believe that climate change is the most important thing, more than anything else, he would nod his head in agreement with you, that somehow climate change is more important, is the most important, most pressing issue that we have right now. What women are being paid in the work office, what Hillary, is the most important and pressing issue. I don't think so. And I think just now, I think the president is beginning to have to, even though he's still in fantastic denial, he still at some point is going to have to step up his game a little bit and come to some recognition of the danger that the United States of America is in from this group. And he doesn't seem to be there yet. He seems very confident, so confident that he's willing to let tens of thousands of whatever the numbers are of refugees from Syria, which we all have, concerns for other human beings, but we have to put American interests, we have to be here in order to let them in. We have to have an America to be able to do nice things for other people. And we're at a point right now in history where, Paris had one or two of these guys come in through the refugee system. We have to be extra vigilant and extra careful at this point as the United States of America, because we've really messed it up till now. It's really just been one boondoggle after another, unfortunately. We have less than a year left, or somewhere very close to a year left now before a new president, and it couldn't come any quicker, because unfortunately events seem to be steaming up, heating up, and the president, again, even just a few days ago, was just before the unfortunate and horrific Paris attacks, was again in his own way discounting ISIS by saying that he was selecting they haven't taken over more territory, so we've contained them. He was talking, he claims he was talking about physical territory, but that's not the point, how much physical territory they have. Their reach, how many people they can kill, is the point. And they made that point, unfortunately, with Paris right after he made that statement. Our president needs to shut his mouth and get down to the business of killing these terrorists. That's what he needs to do. Otherwise, because the population is upset by this, the population is frightened, and it could lead to a number of unfortunate outcomes if he doesn't start getting on the ball here for America. I don't know what those outcomes are, but I know that when a population starts to get more and more nervous about an attack, and the polls show that that's very high, there's going to be some real potential changes that take place that could throw even more things off. The economy. Look at Paris right now. Their economy, or that part of Paris, their economy has come to a standstill because of this, and we certainly don't need that, and so on. So there you are. The family unit, tremendously important. It's a wonderful thing to have a family, to get together with your family, and to reconnect with them and center yourself from there and all that. And I, for one, can say that when I was a young man, I couldn't even fathom wanting a family. That was the farthest thing from my mind because of my own state of mind. And through a series of accidents, literally, I have a family, and I'm so delighted that I do. I would not want it the other way.
This refugee crisis, David, have you been following this? We talked about it last week.
Not day by day. I didn't see the news today.
Late last week, Balkan countries started filtering refugees and migrants trying to make their way to Europe. Only people from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan are allowed to proceed. Those from other countries have not been allowed through since they are not considered economic migrants. I don't know what that means. Reuters reported that on Friday, 400 people were denied access to a train and halted by Croatian police as they tried to make their way through a field. And until it can strike a deal with Greece on how to filter migrants and refugees, Macedonia has stopped everyone coming through, regardless of nationality, at its border with Greece. Many are now stuck in no man's land, where some are staging dramatic protest in hopes of being led through to continue their journey toward Western Europe. At the scene near the Grecian-Macedonian border, Reuters reported that Moroccans, Iranians, and Pakistanis are blocking railway traffic as they demand to be let through. But apart from sitting on the rails, some have resorted to more drastic measures. An Iranian man went on a hunger strike and got his lips sewn together. Asked by Reuters where he wanted to go, the man answered, I don't know how he answered, because his lips were sewn together. I'm assuming he wrote it or mumbled it. To any free country in the world, I cannot go back. I will be hanged. Boy, following the terrorist attack in Paris, it has left 130 people dead. Pressure has grown in Europe to install a better screening process for the millions of migrants and refugees who have flooded into the continent from war-torn regions. Authorities has said that at least one of the suicide bombers involved in the Paris attacks was carrying a refugee passport, and this has only served to fuel the refugee backlash. Slovenia was the first member of the Schengen zone, the area of 26 European companies that has allowed free movement across borders, to announce it would only accept people from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. I mean, this is happening in the real world, the world in which you and I live and earn our livings and love our families and have Thanksgiving dinners. And somewhere in the midst of these migrants are the people who want to do you and I everlasting harm. I don't. Do you have any solution, David? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I have a solution. The president doesn't take, for pure political reasons, he doesn't take every single soldier out of Iraq, whether we should have been there or not. By taking every soldier out of Iraq, it left a complete power vacuum. 2 years ago, ISIS didn't exist. 2 years ago or 4 years ago, when he took every soldier out of Iraq, he left that power vacuum. That began, his own generals warned him that would create a power vacuum and it would be taken over. And George Bush said the same thing. That's exactly what happened. If you ask me bluntly, I would answer you and say that the Syrian refugee crisis is a direct result of his absolutely feckless inability to lead and to do what's right. He's doing purely what he wants to do politically. He didn't care what his generals said, and that led to ISIS, and ISIS led to all of this. ISIS, I believe, had plans to produce refugees by getting people to leave the country so they could, load people in there like they did in Paris to come in with the refugees. All it takes is one or two. So all of this is really, it's not in the abstract. It's part of a whole series of very poor decisions from a president who is purely political, that has absolutely no real world concerns. He just wants political aspirations to be achieved and for his party to continue. That's all he thinks about all day long. He's a political chess player. He should be in the back rooms playing political chess for a real leader, is what he should be doing with his life, not being the real leader, because he doesn't have that. He doesn't have those qualities. He's an advisor to a president. He's an advisor to someone. That's what his best position would be, but not being the leader. So with regard to, I don't know what to do with the refugees. What I do know is that we have to think of America first. We have to make sure that whatever we do decide to do, that it doesn't put ordinary American citizens at further risk. That's for sure. So
this business with this Russian plane being shot down too, that could become very explosive.
It could be. I don't have all the news from today. I did hear a little bit about that, but unfortunately...
Putin harshly rebuked Turkey for its downing of a Russian warplane Tuesday morning. Today's loss is linked to a stab in the back delivered to us by accomplices of terrorists, Putin said Tuesday from the Russian Black Sea resort. before a meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah. I cannot qualify what happened today as anything else. We've established a long time ago that large quantities of oil and oil products from territory captured by Islamic State have been arriving on Turkish territory. He continued saying that was how the Islamic State, also known as ISIS or ISIL, has been funding itself. And now we get stabbed in our back and our planes which are fighting terrorism are struck. This despite the fact that we signed an agreement with our American partners to warn each other about air-to-air incidents, and Turkey announced it was allegedly fighting against terrorism as part of the U.S. coalition. Well, the thing is you never know who these weapons are going to fall into the hands of, just because it was, the rocket that took the plane down was fired from inside Turkey. You don't know who was pulling the trigger on the thing. Correct? I mean, it could have been an ISIS guy for all that.
Yeah, we don't know. There's a lot that we don't know, but that's why we need to allow people who do know, like instead of all of this stuff being micromanaged by President Obama, it needs to be managed by the people who have been complaining that he's not listening to his leadership that knows about this stuff. He's very arrogant. He believes he knows it all, and he's doing every decision he makes comes from a political point of view. He never takes any real action. He simply makes political decisions. That's where a president is. I challenge somebody to show me how he's not doing that, because I can't see anything else but that.
One of Obama's former generals was on Fox last night, the Kelly File. This is from Rich. He says the general stated emphatically that Obama received all the necessary information regarding ISIS, but has ignored it. He needs to be impeached, but of course that will never happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Rich. I didn't see that. Let's see what else is in the chat box. I'm not trying to be a JA. Okay. But do you think Jesus would turn back the refugees? The only reason we're not accepting them is out of fear. Most of these people need help. You're correct, Dan. Most of them do need help, but unfortunately, some of them are this Trojan horse that I keep talking about. And the question is, how do you separate one from the other? I mean, you pose a good question, but I still think to just open up our borders and allow 200,000 people to flood in, not knowing, I mean, out of that 200,000, it only takes a small percentage that come here with ill intentions to get the job done. So I think we have to be very careful. Kevin adds, Syrian passports are hot commodities. The passport agency is issuing them for $3,000. I heard on KCRW. Now, what do you mean by that, Kevin? Passports for Syrians to get out of Syria, or for people from other countries to get a Syrian passport so that they can become a part of this refugee exodus? Is that?
I think he's talking about people having a passport to leave Syria and to be able to travel and get into another country and so on.
Yeah, I don't know how all that works. America has lost faith in the job market. I haven't had a chance to look at this. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index for November, released today, unexpectedly fell to 90.4, a 14-month low. Economists expected the index to rise to 99.5 in November from an upwardly revised 99.1 print in October. The Conference Board's Lynn Franco explained in the report the decline was mainly due to a less favorable view of the job market. Consumers' appraisal of current business conditions, on the other hand, was mixed. Fewer consumers said conditions had improved, while the proportion saying conditions had deteriorated also declined. Heading into 2016, consumers are cautious about the labor market and expect little to change in business conditions. Last month, the U.S. economy added 271,000 jobs, the strongest pace of employment growth this year, and the unemployment rate fell to a 7-year low of 5%. However, the jobs that were added were in the older demographic, not the important demographic, and the unemployment rate, we know, is a false number because they no longer count those who have just flat given up looking for a job, or who have extended their unemployment benefits and are now no longer, I mean, you get paid unemployment for X amount of time, and then once you're no longer eligible for the benefits, then there's nobody out there counting you. I mean, and then they hand that number to the American people and go, well, here's our unemployment rate. I mean, they really do think we're stupid, don't they?
They do. They do.
See if there's anything else in headlines today. Pentagon, this is between Turkey and Russia. Our focus is on ISIS, so we're going to try to sidestep this. Earlier in the show, Bill Riley last night was lecturing Donald Trump over he should just stop tweeting because Trump's tweeting out some stuff that's perhaps not true, and he's trying to, so he goes, well, I just retweeted it. It was from a radio show. I assumed it was, had been vetted and was true, and it said something like 85% of blacks murdered are murdered by whites, when the actual truthful figure is 15%. And O'Reilly scolded him. He says, you're a presidential candidate. You can't do that stuff. So, U.S., this is interesting. ISIS militants are using is it going to give me, it's a video.
Show me donut shops around here.
Where can I find a breakfast burrito nearby?
Coffee? What about
Kill the
grapes?
video.
How about a bagel?
What is the most important meal of the day?
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
But it's playing in my ear. Okay. All right. A tiny pill is giving fighters in Syria superhuman abilities. Turkey reported seizing nearly 11 million pills of Captagon after 2 raids along its Syrian border. Experts say the highly addictive drug is fueling the conflict in Syria, as both ISIS militants and Syrian rebels are using the stimulant on the battlefield. Now, that's not anything I've ever heard of. Have you?
No, I have not.
Captagon. What do we got? Evidence. Paris attackers used jihadist drug favored by ISIS fighters. It is possible to slaughter dozens of innocent people without biting an eyelid, without feeling the slightest remorse. Survivors of the Paris attacks has described some of the gunmen as zombie-like, even serene as they pull their triggers. French media are reporting evidence that the attackers were hounded a drug that is found almost exclusively in the Middle East and used by the Islamic fighters. It's been dubbed the jihadist drug because of its ability to mask pain, fear, and hunger, keep fighters awake, calm, and alert for long stretches. Wow. Now, if I'm not mistaken, did Hitler not give his soldiers some type of amphetamines? Isn't that how the story
I don't
goes?
know. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's how it is. The synthetic amphetamine-based pill is considered the drug of choice for Islamic State fighters in Syria, Iraq, and now it seems Paris. When French police raided a hotel room at Alfredville, southeast of Paris last week, they found a stash of syringes, needles, and plastic tubing. This is for the so-called 8th attacker had allegedly rented 2 rooms for several days. Forensic tests have yet to confirm the nature of the chemicals found. Several witnesses who survived the attacks have described the gunman as being in a zombie-like state, as if stupefied. by drugs. Captagon was originally produced in the West in the 60s to create conditions such as hyperactivity and depression. It was later banned in most countries because of the addictive nature. Now it is overwhelmingly found in the Middle East, particularly Syria, where its production and use has soared since the start of the country's civil war. God, it always goes back to drugs, doesn't it? I mean, most of the people in our prisons here in America, if they're not there for an actual drug charge, they're there for a crime they committed while on drugs or attempting to get money to buy drugs. This is, I had not heard of this at all. Let's see, Syrians are also increasingly using the pills, which sell for between $5 and $20, as well as helping combatants dig in for long stretches of fighting. Reports of seizures and interviews with people connected to the trade suggest the production of Captagon also generates hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenues in Syria and potentially funds the purchase of weapons. Trafficking of the amphetamine Captagon from Syria into Turkey may be increasing, as indicated by a seizure of 4.2 million tablets in April of 2013. We would beat them and they wouldn't feel any pain. Wow. Drug use could explain barbarity of the jihadist. Well, guys, this is going to be one to keep your eye on. This is like having these zombie robots who've been, fed these pills and pointed in our direction, and they feel no pain, hunger. Goodness, this is quite frightening. You want to take a look at the market, Dave? S&P?
Sure. Yeah, let's take a quick look at it. So let's talk a little bit about the S&P. It's very interesting. The market today is having a decent day. We're up $1.50 from yesterday, but we had to rally significantly to get to that point, and we're in that rally right now. One of the most interesting things about the S&P today is that we recently put in a daily top. As you know, Friday, November 20th, was the on-time day for a daily top. Monday, yesterday, was the one day late. It did come in on time, and the market has sold off from it. But I'm starting to scratch my head a little bit, where I'm not 100% convinced of this yet, but the order of magnitude of the various tops that are within other tops, like we have a yearly top and a monthly top and a weekly top and now a daily top, is almost too much to ask for. It's almost too much to believe. And what I mean by that is that if the market had just merely put in a weekly top inside of a yearly top or something like that, I would say that's a very bearish position and so on, and the market would go lower. But the fact that we've stacked up so many, it has to be obvious to other people as well, on some level, that there are tops within tops here, and many more than you would normally see. It's a very unusual set of conditions to see this many tops from various time frames all lining up inside one another. That's a pretty unusual set of conditions. You're not going to see that. Years and years and years can pass before you would see something like that. And it has me, I'm sort of in pause mode with regard to the larger picture, not so much the yearly top, but just the fact that there are so many other tops subsequent to that that have been put in on reflected wave, that I'm really at the point where I'm thinking there may be something else going on here. Just that one thing alone. I was mentioning this morning in our meeting, we have our S&P meetings every day, and many, many, many years ago, back in, say, 1993, 1994, someone can correct me, but Robert Prechter of Elliott Wave fame had written a book at the crest of the tidal wave, or something like that title, which was a book about the coming market crash. Now, if you go back to 1994 and take a look at, to put up a Dow chart, perhaps, I don't know how far back your data goes. If you can,
not very far, Dave.
Okay. But if you were to go back, let's say, take a yearly chart and go back to 1994, you'll find that in 1994 the Dow was trading at about 3,700 or so. And it was at that point that Robert had written this book. I respect Robert Prechter. He had written this book at the crest of the tidal wave. And a good portion of the book, it's a big book. It's not, you're not going to get a version of it in like a pocket edition, okay, because it's really big. And this book's whole premise was that the market was about to crash. And it got right before probably the largest rally that we've ever seen, which from 1994 till now has been just this incredible nonstop advance, pretty much, except we did have some years in there, both in January 2000 and in 2008, or 2007, where we had the big declines. But we've really run the market beautifully.
Yeah,
My
on a
point,
weekly,
though, is,
I could only go back to about January of 2012.
Oh, okay. My point, though, is that one of the things that Robert Prechter relied on, and a decent portion of the book, was him describing all of the various divergences. This is one of the things that he was using, and how they stacked up. So, as an example, he had a yearly divergence, and he had a quarterly divergence, a semi, and all these things. He had these massive divergences, which he was able to show in the book, which meant that the market was clearly, to him, ready to crash. And all of those divergences disappeared when the market began to run. All I'm really bringing up is that in a similar way, and partly through lessons I learned from that and many other years of doing this, is that when you see this many divergences, or this many, in our case, tops within tops, you start to question whether or not the market is really ready to go down just yet. Now, it still may be, but I have to say, like I said before, that it's an unusual set of conditions where we have this many tops within tops. So we're going to continue to believe in the larger picture that we have for a multi-year decline, but if the market really is as weak as all of these tops would indicate, we would be underway relatively soon here. I know we have a Thanksgiving holiday here, and I'm really talking about a much bigger picture view here than just an intraday trade or something like that. But it is interesting, and so one of the tricky things about divergence, a lot of people use divergence, and a lot of people are quite ignorant of some facts about divergence, one of which, and these, ignorant doesn't mean stupid, it just means they don't know. So there's a difference between ignorant and stupidity. They just simply don't know, they haven't investigated, but a lot of divergences that you are going to see on your chart are going to disappear if the market goes against them. In other words, it looks like there's a top, there's divergence of one kind or another, and then if the market continues to rally, the divergence that was there actually goes away. And upon retrospect, when you're going into the past to see how many times divergence didn't work, you actually are not seeing them because they literally disappear by the nature of how they're set up on the chart and by the nature of the fact that the market went further in the wrong direction. Basically.
So are you referring to like an indicator like a stochastics or a MACD? Or?
I'm looking at just anything that shows divergence. I think it's universal. These divergences disappear once the market goes in the direction against what the divergence was indicating.
Because
and
the
then
strength of the move just kind of bends it?
Just pulls the indicator away, bends it away, and there's no divergence left.
And
so now what happens is people go back and they check, and let's see how this has worked out in the past. And because the ones that mostly didn't work or didn't work at all have been erased by the fact that the market has moved higher, they then believe in a perfect indicator. And that's why there are so many books out that have the divergence as a main theme in them. We love divergence. Look how often divergence works. Even the authors of these books have not recognized that the ones that don't work actually disappear because of the market going in the wrong direction and pulling the indicator out of divergence, so that upon retrospect you would never see the divergence and count it as one of them that didn't work. And that makes divergence look like it's a lot better than it is, when it's really in fact a lot worse than it looks.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
lot worse than it is. So he fell for that. back then because he had many divergences within divergences, and they ultimately ran. And I'm just stating right now for the stuff that we look at with reflected wave, there's an awful lot stacked up here in one thing. Yearly top, monthly top, weekly top, daily top, all of them have happened. They've all had little pullbacks, and we're still up here. So I said all of that to say that it has me scratching my head a little bit at this point. And really, when I scratch my head, that means I just wait and I'm watching. And I would be willing at this point, if the market showed us, I would be willing to take on a long position, more powerful, more looking for a much larger move, long position, if they show us that. If subsequently, over the next days and weeks, they begin to show the breakdown and the necessary stuff that we would see, great, we'll take the trade on the downside. But it's a very interesting set of conditions we have. I can honestly say, at least I don't remember any time in my past 25 years now, I don't know that I remember a time where I saw this many tops inside of tops. And so it doesn't happen very often, and if this is what it ostensibly is, the market should be getting down to business on the downside relatively quickly. And if it isn't that, then I have a feeling that the market needs to move quite a distance to the upside, as strange as that sounds. And that would imply, potentially, if that is the case, that the market would be moving to maybe all-time new highs. You're hearing that from me, somebody who's been talking about the yearly top. Mm-hmm. But remember, we're not sure that that's the case. I'm only bringing up one of the many doubts and one of the many things that we have to consider on our end before putting a trade out. We have to consider all this stuff so that when we finally put it out, we really have the best information that we can come up with about what the most probable thing the market is going to do is. So I'm just letting you all know that I'm working with this because it's an unusual set of conditions, and today's continued advance merely plays into that even more. So there you are. So in terms of S&P, we're flat right now. We did have a call earlier today when they were at 78, no big deal, for the market to move up to 83. They've done that. We're up at 87 now. They've really, today's session has been very crisp. They've done nothing wrong. They continue to act very well. And I'll tell you on a daily closing basis that closing above 79 or 80 today is likely, and if it occurs, that is still a pretty strong position for the market to be in. So I'll take any questions if you have any, but that's kind of our that's what we're working with right now is the bigger picture.
Let's see what I got here in the chat box. David, do you see the S&P ignoring, since it's pretty normal to see advances into a holiday?
Well, yeah, he's asking, do we see the market maybe ignoring all these tops just for the sake of this holiday? They're advancing because it's bullish. And certainly markets can temporarily have a move that would be seasonal or, around a holiday, something like that. I certainly would agree that that could happen. But then if all those other forces are really there, all those different time frames and forces are there, the market would almost immediately afterwards, which would be starting next week, would have to show signs of that. And then we also have the Christmas, rally coming. But I'm suspicious. I think that's my best way of putting it. I'm suspicious about what the market is doing here, and it could lead to a really powerful advance if it is what we're saying, which is that there's too many of these things stacking up for them to be real. And I think if Robert Prechter learned anything, and I'm sure he did from his book, it's that there was too much there, it was too obvious, and it ultimately ended up in the market going substantially further in the same direction. And I'm not ready to say that that's what it is yet, but I am ready to say that we're suspicious about the set of conditions that the market has right now.
Now, James's question kind of dovetails into Timothy's question. Timothy had a different question. Let me give you James, and then we'll go to Timothy. For David, the fake out of tops. Haven't you always advised that the market gets very tricky around major moves, wouldn't this action be considered tricky?
Yeah, I do think of it as tricky. I usually, when I say tricky, I'm referring to kind of a class of trickiness where the market will act like, and this is what I think he's asking, it acts like it might be going to be going higher, and then it really gets people bullish, and then it flushes out, or it spikes up above really critical levels and then closes below them and then slams. I'm just really saying, if this was Timothy that asked that.
No, this James asked that
okay.
question.
So I'm really just saying that this is a little different than the normal trickiness that we would expect and see, just because of the nature of how many tops are stacked up here. If your question is, well, isn't that something that the market could do to trick everyone at every level, I would say yes, that would be. It's just a very unusual event that I don't think I've seen before in a pretty long time in the markets. And so, you know, like I said, I'm suspicious. And yes, the answer to your question is yes, it certainly could be that. The market, especially the S&P, has a very long storied history of flushing out the weak hands, if you will, before it actually has the bigger move. And this happens on all time frames. Even people that are trading down at the, you know, scalping level, they see it down there as well. You know, all the way up to big scale stuff.
Let me ask you Scott's question, and then Timothy. Is there a regained square number in the area to signal a quick up move?
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons that I was mentioning the 79, 78 level. I would also bring up that today we had listed 68, 67, which would be a minor, what we would call regained square, and all they did is go down and touch that. Today's low was 65.50. So again, they're acting on the bullish side of squares. They're very buoyant here. I don't want to get people to do anything based on my suspicions, but I think it's fair to say that I am suspicious and that I haven't seen this before, and that we're going to try to work it out as best as we can, and we're going to make less money with more certainty by the time we trade it, most likely. So there you are.
All right, the Timothy question. How soon does David want to see downside action, and what size of action, since we had a 30-point sell-off from this daily top high?
The kind of action that this all implies is that we would be well below 1,700 in the S&P. That's the kind of action that would come.
1,700, wow.
Yes, that's why I'm giving you the scale of what the scale that we're working from right now in this discussion is would mean that we'd be completely taking out the August lows and moving substantially beyond that. That's the kind of scale that all of this would point to. So when you think of that scale, now that you have that in your mind, and then you take a look at what the market's doing, we certainly do have time left for them to get that kind of move underway, to show tricky behavior and all the other things. But I'm just pointing out that, you know, there's how many more tops are, you know, we've got monthly, we have yearly, monthly, weekly, daily. There's not a whole lot left that the market can do here, and it's really at a very unique position. That's all. And we're going to remain watching it and see if we can put something together. If it turns out that there really is something important on the upside, that they start to show their hand, that there really is buoyancy here and there's a big force, we want to be in that. All of us do. You know, and it may feel uncomfortable to be in it right at the start, but it'll probably end up being a remarkable move if that's the case, up to the upside. We're not forecasting that yet. We're just saying that, you know, again, that our position is we're starting to wonder about this position in the market here with all these tops and all the stuff that we've talked about this morning. So there you are.
Mike G would like to know what you've got for bonds and Canoe, of course, interested in the euro.
Yeah, I'll tell you a couple things. As a matter of fact, if you want, I'll show a couple charts. It actually, coming on a little earlier today, gave us plenty of time to vent politically, get all that out of the way, and we did.
We did.
And I've been caught up in that because I think partly because of my own concerns about what we are seeing happen in the world. Real quick, We had a bond. Speaking of bonds, we had indicated to our group that the bonds were, if they got above 155 or 155, if they closed hourly above that yesterday, they would go to 155.27 to 156. This is them closing above that. This is the overnight, and then this morning we did rally up to 155.24. So we almost got there, and they sold off pretty good. That's commensurate with the S&P sort of rallying today. We also had a soybean trade Monday. Soybeans are likely to test $8.63 from here. Let me give you a little scope of what here was. So the market was in a downtrend, from higher prices.
Is that the gap lower open on Sunday that I'm seeing there?
This is the 22nd. The 22nd.
Okay, so that was Sunday night's open. Okay.
Yes, because Monday was the 23rd.
Yeah.
So we felt that this was the current price at 855, 856 was important to be long for a run to 868. 63. It wasn't a big deal. It was only 8 cents, but it was something that we felt was highly likely.
Of late, that's a nice moving.
It's not bad, and we will take smaller trades if we feel the probabilities are very high. Soybeans right now are at 867, so they're still having a pretty good move up. It's a great market. It's a market I think every trader should look at because it's not complicated. It's a pretty simple market. I think. This was the S&P 2077.78 for today, going up to 83. We're now at 88. I mean, this market continues to climb. This is a pretty ramp thing. We also had a crude oil trade today as well. If we change this to crude, let's just take for giggles because I haven't put that chart out. And we're in, what's the month that we're in? We're in January, I think. But we were looking for crude today to jump up to 43.50. And today's high was 43.45. So we had a nice trade in crude, probably around 60 cents. I don't remember exactly the entry, but they did make the move. It was 42.20 or something, I think, was our entry, and we ran it up to 43.50. And today's high was 43.45. And this, again, is why stops are so important, because you can see as soon as they didn't touch it, they came within 5 ticks of it, they sold off pretty strong. If you put that on a 15-minute, you can see that's a pretty sharp decline. If you're not using a stop, and if the market just decided to bounce and continue lower, you now would be in a position where you had a profit, it's gone completely away, and now you have to hope that you're not in something bigger on the downside and all of that. Stops are not for the stupid people. Stops are for the smart people. It's the stupid people that don't use them, or ignorant people, or whatever. And I was one of them. I mean, we all go through that phase where I'm just going to, some people have enough money and they say, well, listen, I've got enough money and I'm just, the market goes against me, I'm just going to hold until it comes back. That's one form of, I'm not going to use a stop. Other people just say, I'm ultimately going to be right, and they hold on and they just don't use a stop. But all those people that have whatever their reasons are, they all end up, unfortunately, without a trading account, because at some point the market makes a big enough move to completely wipe out every possible trading account size. It doesn't matter if you come to the market with 100,000 or 1 million or 100 million or 100 billion. It really doesn't matter. There have been people who've been wiped out with the largest imaginable trading accounts, and that happens from this type of basic behavior. It starts at a very simple point. I'm not going to be wrong. And so we've talked about this many times on the program. We've both talked about it. You have to learn how to be wrong. You have to learn how to be gracefully imperfect and allow yourself that, so that you can come back in the next day with a very clear head and with all of the same belief that you can get it right and do it right as you would have before your previous loss. It's just once in a while you're going to have to take a loss. It's just you can't know it all, and you just accept that and don't make a big deal out of it. Go ahead.
When you have a stop and a target, if price hits your stop, you were right. It just wasn't profitable. When it hits your target, you're right and profitable. Because you're saying, from my entry point here, I believe that price will either go here or here. And so whichever way it goes, if you can get it in your head that you're right, hey, you nailed it. You nailed it. But it's just, unfortunately, this time it went to the unprofitable side of where you nailed it. You know, I got
Right.
stopped out
And
with a tick kind of thing.
I remind myself, that's a good point, and I remind myself as well that we're all going to be taking literally thousands of trades. I mean, over the years coming, we're all going to be trading. This is just one trade in many of those. We're just trying to get it right, all of us, to get it right enough so that we have a high probability of a particular event happening, and then manage the risk. You trade to the target, but always have that stop in just in case you're wrong. And on the 1 or 2 times, or whatever the numbers are that you are wrong, you'll be very happy to have had that stop in place. And the times that you're right, the stop was there and it just didn't have to be employed, and you feel great about it. It does feel good to do the right thing and not to play with fire. When you play with fire and you know you're playing with fire, something about that makes it catch up eventually. You can do it once or twice, but at some point it's going to get you. And if I could have a check written to me for all of the non-stop trades that I took when I was young in the trading world and so on, and quite a bit younger than I am now, if I could have that check, it would be a small lottery winning, honestly, for how much money I threw away just playing with fire. And I've learned over the many, many years that it pays. Only really the smart people are the ones that are using stops. Everyone else is still trying to convince themselves of some superhuman ability to never be wrong or to somehow manage to get out of it and go to the bar and live to tell about it. It's not a hero thing. It's this markets really demand intelligence, and that's, in order to be successful, you have to have intelligence, and might I even say some wisdom in order to be right about what you're doing. And that's why I've said from the very beginning that all of us, we stand on the shoulders of the giants, because in order for them to have achieved what they achieved, they had to have enough intelligence and wisdom to pull off what they did. And we learn from that, we grow from that, but ultimately we all have to go through our own experiences, because there are some hints along the way on the Trader's Mountain. There are little roads that tempt you to believe that you're different and special, and you are different and special, but you're going to be different and special in a bad way. We're so ready to say we're different and special in a good way. We can end up different and special in a bad way by just believing our own nonsense, that there's something magical about, something that we have, or something that makes it so that it's impossible for us, or we're impervious to loss and so on. Or just this one time I'm going to let them run against me. If you get that out of your system, you've cleared a big hurdle for a lot of traders. And the other hurdle, and we don't have to go all to this now, the other hurdle is having a stop that's way too close and worrying too much that they're going to take back something. You have to understand enough about the markets. You have to have enough intelligence to know what's likely going to happen and place your stop accordingly and all that. So there you are.
All right, let me see if there's any other questions. Connie wanted me to share with you that the S&P will and must go to 2171/91. Okay, Connie. And
I'm sorry, what was the number?
2171/91.
Yeah, I think these are numbers that he may have had in the past as well, and that, listen, Connie, from my perspective at this point, if it turns out that all these tops really are an unusual set of conditions that really are going to be erased by the market, I am in agreement that those are the kinds of numbers that we would see. But I'm not ready to say that just yet. But I am ready to tell the public that I am looking at that and suspicious at this point.
So okay. Gary, as you were talking about stops, Gary had just typed in, David, what about a trailing stop? Dave? David, did I lose you?
I'm sorry. I was just answering. I accidentally turned my mic off without even knowing it. I was just going to say trailing stops are all part of, they're not different than stops. You can, if you're trading for a move that is going to go from, point A to point B, and point B is some distance away, you're going to at some point have to move your stop up, because the market has to continue to confirm until it hits that target, and it has to do so without touching numbers that they shouldn't touch. This is it's a little bit of a longer subject to where you move your stop to, because it's conditional. It has to do with how the market's acting under a given set of conditions, where your target is, and many other factors. But over time, you get a feel for where your stop should be. We occasionally, once in a while, will get stopped out of a position that we put our stop in, thinking that this is a place that the market shouldn't go, and I feel pretty good that it shouldn't go there, but it does go there, and they still end up later going up to complete the number. So it's not a perfect science, but you have to move your stop up. I have said on this program, and this is not against any other particular trading system, but I'm not a fan of rushing stops up to break even. I'm a fan of placing stops and continuing to move them to places that the market shouldn't go to if we're correct about the larger forecast. And at some point, the stop will indeed be then at a break even and then be in the money and so on. The stop continues to move up, and then ultimately your target gets hit and so on. We did this when we had this big trade for gold. We're looking for an 80-point move in gold. Well, obviously, that's a big move, and there's lots of places the market could go along the way up, and we had to figure out as best as we could where it shouldn't go. And at some magic moment, the stop was in the money, meaning that it was higher than where we got in, and we managed that trade through. So it's a practice, it's a skill. That's another part of the skill. Remember, the money you're protecting is your own. Remember that old thing, the lives you save is your own? Like forest fires, the life you save may be your own, or whatever. I don't remember what it was. But the money you're saving is your own. And there's something peculiar about the markets that when we make money in the market, we don't classify it in our minds in the same way as we do a paycheck or money that we had to go to an office to work and earn. We do something different with it. And I really found in my time in doing this that something different is not a good thing, that you have to protect your capital. My way of dealing with it is to pretend it's somebody else's money. So when I'm trading, I'm always thinking that I'm trading with someone else's money. It's an old, long-standing habit with me, because I did trade for other people, and I found that I traded much better for others than I do for myself. I'm willing to play with my own money and decimate my own account, where I'm going to trade almost like an expert for somebody else's money, because I don't want to have to go back to them, or if I care for those people, I don't want to lose their money. And I don't fool around, I'm not flippant with it and all that. And I've learned that by just keeping it that way, it's kind of like a, if you will, a somewhat biblical way of thinking, because you're a steward for your own money. You're not its owner. You're not saying I own it. You're saying I'm just here to take care of it. And if you think of it in those terms, that's a very different feeling than the feeling that many of us have, that we're just willing to throw huge chunks of money away, in a trade just to be right. So don't be a Vernon Howard, many years ago, my one and only mentor in my life, if you will, much more than a mentor, but he said, be a, I can't think of the right word, but don't be an owner of your life, but be its manager.
Be a steward?
Not a steward, but it was something like, be a manager of your life, but not its owner.
Okay.
Don't own it, because once you own it, you do something, you start doing wrong things with it. It's hard to put into words, but if you'll trade for somebody else, and I do have to run here, but I just want to say, one of the best experiences I've ever had is by trading for somebody that I cared for, and by doing so I found that I traded dramatically differently for that person than I do for myself, and therefore I recognized that there were really two distinct trading personalities in me. And that really was a life-changing experience for me at the end of a 3-year period, to see that she actually was living off the money that I was trading for her in an account, and my personal account was decimated at that point in that same period of time. I had run through more money than I cared to think about, but for her account, she'd actually made money. And that was all being traded by one person, just like almost as if you're a mental patient and you have totally two personas. So if you get an opportunity to trade for somebody that you care for, you may find that is for you what it was for me, which was very clear that you know better than what you're doing in your own account. You can trade much better than you are for your own money. You will do it for other people much better, especially if you care for that person.
David asked, I know your answer, but I'll let you answer it. What do you typically use as a stop, or is it variable?
It's variable, and it's based upon everything in the markets for me is conditional. Every setup is conditional. The targets are conditional. Nothing for me is a 36% retracement or a 38%. Everything is conditional based on the absolute conditions of the market under whatever set of time frames and things that we care to consider. And that includes the stop. Some of our stops are large. They're almost embarrassingly large. Like as an example, we might have a trade where we're going to make 10 points and our stop is 10 points initially. Mm-hmm. We have other trades where we may have a 10-point move coming up and we only have a 3.5-point stop or a 4-point stop. But it's conditional. So those conditions would require that according to how we think about the market. We want to be out of the way of the market, give it room to get going, and then start moving our stop up. So it is not fixed for us. That's our thing, is that it's all conditional. The better you are reading conditions, I think the better you are at correctly identifying conditions and trading those conditions. So that's my take on it. Dwayne, I do have to
David.
run. I appreciate
you
having
so
us on early today, and we'll be back tomorrow. We'll finish up the week because tomorrow is the last day, correct? We're done.
That's it. Tomorrow's the day. All right.
All right. Well,
see you
thanks
then.
for the questions. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we left off on Euro, I believe. Yes. And we had a 29-point move, and then we had a move even higher than that. We got up to 106.77. And in this move, we got up to 106.68. So, Euro showing some resilience to the upside. Soybeans. Let's reel them in. Okay. Soybeans last night. Long above 874. Nope. Short below 854. Nope. Nope, nope, and more nope. So we got no trigger on the beans today, although they did have some volatility. Now we've had some triggers in past days as we came up through that 54. Today, we stayed within that range. Okay, what's left? The Russell? Or did we do the Dow? No, we didn't do the Dow. Okay, let's get back this to YMZ5. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay. Long above 17,850. We haven't got there yet. Short below 17,685. We did that. Alert 17,685. So the initial drop, and again, this has come off the London Open last night. We got all the way down in that first move to 33. So from 83 to 33, that would be a 50-point move. Now, this candle represents the entire 30 minutes. Here's 3. And then here's the trigger. And we need 20 points in the Dow. The Dow pays $5 per point, so $20 times $5 per point gives us $100 per point. These little guys here, from 85, that's a 10-point drop, and that's a 12-point drop. This one here, and drop 5. And this one dropped 9, no 11. And then the big move again, all the way down to 23. So from 83 to 23 would be 62. And then important prices, important areas, almost always tested. So we got to test it one more time. This time, as you can see, we're building legs to the upside. So as we drop below 17,685, we put a low in at 48. So from 85, 75, 65, 45, about 27 points. Now we're heading up, and we could break to the upside, and that number would be 17,850. So keep an eye on that until the alerts come out tonight. Russell, what do we got? Let's see. There, let's go to this guy. Yeah, that's too sideways. No, maybe not. Well, let's get a bigger picture view. There we go. All right, the Russell last night, Concierge Trade Alerts, which went out early last night. They got out at 7 p.m. Eastern. I always like it when I can do that. The short was short below 1177, which was right here. Okay. From 77, put in a swing low. Now, when it candle closes here, opens here, okay, so this tail, even if we just look at this tail here, this was down to 1170. That's a 7-point move. And so at $700 per contract, available. Now, those that are trading the 2420 blueprint, they're looking for a 1-point move. 1176, right there. That's 1 point. That's $100 per contract for the day. Done for the day. Okay, this is a $700 per contract move. Okay, now, did the important price, important area come back and get tested? Let's see. It did. Price got up to 77.5, turned right around, and did the dip again. This time putting in a low at 69.80. So from 77 to 60. Well, we'll give that the same $700 value. So $700 per contract move, a $700 per contract move. What you got out of the trade is whatever you were able to trail behind it and capture. Okay? Now, alongside, for the Russell, we said to be long above 1182. $11.82 swing high, 1186.1. So that's 4 points. Or $400 per contract. That's what the market made available. Again, if you're using a hard target, if you're just looking for your 1 point, it's 10 ticks. This is how far the market moved. This is what the market made available This is what was on the table. And if you were trailing your stop, at some point price came back and took you out. Based on how tightly you were trailing it, it may have been this candle that came back and took you out. And then last but not least, we go to gold. All right. And gold long above 1071, which is right here. $10.71, put in a high at 10.80, so that's 9 points. That's $900 on gold. Had we gone to 10.81, that would be $1,000 per contract. It's a $9 move in gold equals 900 per contract. $71 to 80.5. That's really, yeah, it's actually 9.5. We'll call it 9. No trigger for gold on the short side. It's about time gold had an up day. So that covers it all. We covered the S&P. $20.87, swing high $20.89, exactly 2 points so far. The alert was to be short 75, long 87. On the Dow, just recapping everything. No trigger on the long side, but a real nice trigger on the short side. The Russell, short 1177. Long 1182. So whether you traded the short side, the long side, or both, there's a handsome payday there. After the Russell, crude oil, you had a $1,000 per contract move. The euro gave us multiple 20 to 30 point moves, and we only need 8. 8 ticks is what we need at $12.50 per tick to make the $100 per contract per day that's required by the 2420 blueprint. After the euro, we just looked at gold. Soybeans, you know we didn't trade. And bonds. Long above 55.13. Nice move. 13 to 24, that's 11. And then we've had a couple opportunities here on the short side at 155. So that is it. That's going to wrap it up for today. Later today, there will be a recap video on the Google Plus page, and today's radio show in its entirety will be posted to the Google Plus page. Of course, if you have any questions, send them to support@cfrn.net or call 949-42 Emini. 949-42 Emini. Gary, is that question for me or is that for Dave? How absolute are your numbers? I see no quarters or halves in the numbers. Just curious. Every now and then there'll be a half, like on a Russell. Let me show you. Sometimes on a Russell, maybe it would be like 1178.50. And even sometimes on Crude. I prefer to stick with the whole number. In fact, whenever you see me go to a fractional number and not the whole number, there's something that is causing me a bit of a lack of confidence. I really prefer to go with the whole number. So that might even serve as a tip-off for you when you see an alert that's not a whole number. I'm committed to putting out my very best possible trade on each market, and I do. But when I am required to use a half number, it's still my best work, but it's not my greatest confidence. So watch for the whole numbers and see how those turn out for you. Okay, so guys, that's it for today. Still recouping from the events of the last, it's not even been a week yet, and so it'll take a little time for me to bounce back and put all things in their proper perspective. And I appreciate your continued prayers and support and condolences and so very much. Thank you, Bruce. Thank all of you. You've been very wonderful through this trying time, and I appreciate it so much. I thank you all for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.
This podcast is brought to you by System Runner. To test drive a breakthrough in automated forex trading and to open a demo account today,